The alien Mistress was known across the galaxy for her beauty, her wealth, and her cruel games. Her palace was filled with priceless treasures, gems that glowed in the dark, weapons carved from rare stars, and golden statues older than most civilizations, but she trusted no one, not even her own guards. Too many had betrayed her in the past, selling her secrets, stealing her riches, or running to her enemies. So when a human was assigned as her new bodyguard, she decided to test him in her own way. The chamber was silent that night. Moonlight from 2 alien moons fell across the crystal floor. The treasures of her family, worth more than whole planets, lay openly in the center of the room. She ordered all her servants to leave and pretended to fall asleep on her bed, but her sharp golden eyes were not closed. She was watching, waiting, curious to see what this human would do. The human stood near the door, tall and calm. He had no shining armor, no alien blades, only the plain uniform of a protector. His eyes scanned the room, noticing every shadow and every reflection from the treasures. Most guards before him had failed within minutes. They thought the Mistress was asleep, and greed pulled them closer, to the glowing jewels. But this human did not move. He only shifted his weight, listening, breathing slowly. His hands rested near his side, ready for action. Time passed like hours. The treasures sparkled brighter, almost calling out. But the human's gaze stayed sharp, never falling into temptation. Instead, he looked at the ceiling, at the windows, at the curtains swaying gently. It was as if he knew something the Mistress herself had missed. Then, a sound. A faint click on the marble floor. The human turned his head slowly. From the corner of the chamber, a shadow was moving. A figure cloaked in black crept closer to the treasures, silent and fast. The human did not shout. He did not wake the Mistress. Instead, he moved like a predator, quiet and controlled. The intruder reached out for a crystal crown when the human struck. He caught the thief's wrist in a powerful grip, twisting it with speed. The intruder gasped, but could not cry out before. The human forced him down. A sharp struggle followed. The thief drew a hidden blade, but the human dodged with simple earth instincts. No advanced technology, no alien powers, just pure human reflexes and experience. The fight was fast, brutal, and silent. Within moments, the thief was pinned to the ground, his weapon kicked away. The Mistress had watched everything. Her heart beat faster than she expected. She had thought the human might take the treasures or perhaps fail to notice the intruder. But he had done more than protect. He had fought like a warrior born for danger. And even now, as the thief lay defeated, the human's eyes were not on the treasures. They were scanning the shadows again, looking for another threat. The Mistress rose slowly from her bed, her long gown trailing across the floor. The human froze, surprised that she was awake. She walked past the treasures without a glance and stood before him, her golden eyes locked onto his calm face. "Tell me," she said softly, her voice sharp as a blade. "Why did you protect what is not yours?" The human looked at her, steady and without fear. "Because it was my duty," he replied, his voice firm. "Your treasures mean nothing to me, but your safety does." The Mistress tilted her head, a rare smile touching her lips. Her test was only beginning, but already this human was different, very different. The human's grip tightened on the cloaked intruder, forcing him down against the cold crystal floor. The thief's blade slid away, clattering against the wall with a sharp "e" sound. The silence of the chamber returned, but now it was heavy, filled with the smell of fear. The intruder struggled, hissing in a strange alien tongue, his eyes glowing faintly under the hood. He was not an ordinary thief. His movements were sharp, trained too fast for common criminals. The Mistress stepped closer, her golden eyes burning as she studied the captured figure. Her heart raced, though she did not show it. Someone had dared to break into her most private chamber, past guards and walls of steel. This was not random, this was planned. And yet, her human bodyguard had caught it before anyone else could even sense danger. The human twisted the intruder's arm until the thief cried out. "Stay still," the human ordered, his voice calm but deadly serious. He pulled back the hood, revealing a reptilian alien with scales like iron plates and sharp teeth meant for killing. The creature snarled, spitting, trying to lunge forward, but the human pressed him down again. The human strength was surprising even to the Mistress. This was no soldier with advanced armor, just a man, yet his grip was unbreakable. The Mistress circled the thief slowly, her long gown whispering. Across the floor, "Who sent you?" she demanded, her voice smooth yet cold. The reptilian intruder only hissed, refusing to answer. The human's eyes narrowed as he studied the intruder's uniform. Faint marks on the fabric, a strange symbol burned into the leather. He remembered it from his time on Earth when he had studied alien mercenaries. This was the mark of a hired killer, not a thief, not a servant, an assassin. The human looked up at the Mistress, his voice low. "This one wasn't here for the treasures," he said firmly. "He was here for you." The Mistress's eyes flickered, but she gave no sign of fear. Instead, she tilted her chin up, proud as ever. "You speak boldly," she replied, "but you may be right." Her mind was already racing. Her rivals in the council, jealous of her power, must have sent this assassin. The treasures were only bait, a distraction. Her real enemy wanted her life. The human lifted the assassin to his feet, pinning him against the wall with one arm. The intruder thrashed but could not break free. "You've failed," the human said, his voice steady. "But if there are more coming, I will find them." The Mistress studied him in silence, her sharp eyes reading his face. This human had not even looked at the treasures once, not even when they shone brightest under the twin moons. Instead, he had risked his life against an alien faster, stronger and armed, and he had done it without hesitation. Her thoughts turned darker. Was this man simply loyal, or was he hiding something deeper? Why would a human from a world of little power compared to the great empires fight so fiercely for her? Was it truly duty, or something else? The assassin suddenly spat a final curse, his forked tongue flicking out. "You cannot stop us," he hissed. "Others are already here." The human shoved him down, knocking him unconscious with one sharp strike. He turned immediately to the Mistress, his eyes hard. "This is not over," he said. "There may be more inside your palace already." For the first time in many years, the Mistress felt a shiver run through her. Her games and tests had turned into real danger. She had wanted to see if her human bodyguard was greedy, but instead she discovered something much bigger. Someone wanted her dead, and only the human had noticed it in time. The Mistress stood still, her hand resting near her jewels, not for comfort, but to steady herself. She whispered, almost to herself. This was only the beginning. The human looked at her, his jaw set. "Then let it begin," he replied, his voice calm. And in that moment, the Mistress realized this test was no longer hers. The real test had just started, and the whole palace would soon be watching. The chamber was still, the unconscious assassin lying bound on the floor. The treasures still sparkled untouched, as if mocking the danger that had just passed. The human stood tall, his chest rising and falling slowly, his eyes never leaving the dark corners of the room. But now the silence was broken by the sound of soft footsteps. The Mistress stepped forward, no longer pretending to be asleep, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. The human turned his head toward her, his expression calm but alert. He had guessed she was awake, but he had not expected her to reveal herself so soon. Her gown shimmered as she moved closer, her presence filling the room with both beauty and power. Every step she took carried the weight of command, the aura of someone used to ruling over entire fleets and worlds. "You did not take my jewels," she said, her voice smooth but edged with curiosity. "Even when you stood alone, when temptation whispered, you chose your duty." She circled him slowly, her eyes never leaving his face. "You fought without hesitation, without fear, and for what? These treasures mean nothing to you, human, so why protect them?" The human did not shift under her gaze. His answer was simple, steady. "They were never my concern," he said. "It was you I was guarding." The Mistress paused, her lips curling into the faintest smile. Her test had been designed to reveal greed, to expose weakness, but instead it had uncovered something rare, loyalty that could not be bought with gold. And yet, in her heart, a dangerous thought grew. Was this loyalty real or another kind of game? She leaned closer, her eyes searching him deeply. "You speak of duty," she whispered. "But duty is a chain, and chains can be broken." Her words were like silk, wrapping around him, testing him. "Tell me, human, if another mistress offered you freedom, riches, and command, would you still stand by me?" The human's eyes met hers without fear. "I would not serve for gold or power," he said. "I serve because I gave my word." The chamber grew colder in that moment, the silence heavy with unspoken meaning. The mistress tilted her head, studying him as if he were one of her ancient treasures, a relic rare and valuable, not because of gold, but because of strength. She turned away, moving back toward her bed, her gown trailing behind her like flowing fire. But as she walked, her thoughts sharpened. This human was different, too different. He had resisted temptation, fought off an assassin, and spoken with a truth that made even her doubt herself. But trust was dangerous in her world. She had been betrayed too many times before. And though the human had passed her first test, she was not ready to let her guard down. Not yet. The mistress stopped suddenly and looked back over her shoulder. Her eyes narrowed as she studied him one last time. "Remember this, human," she said softly, her voice like a warning. "Loyalty is rare, but so is honesty. I will know if you ever lie to me." The human gave a single nod, his face calm. "You will not need to test me again," he replied. But the mistress only smiled, her golden eyes gleaming. "Oh, I will," she whispered to herself. "For in this palace, trust is more dangerous than betrayal." She returned to her bed, but she did not close her eyes. Her thoughts raced faster than the stars outside her window. For the first time in many years, she felt something strange, curiosity mixed with doubt. This human had shaken the walls of her certainty, and deep inside she knew this was only the beginning of a much greater test. The palace did not sleep after the intruder was caught. Servants whispered in the halls, guards doubled their patrols, and rumors spread like fire. An assassin inside the mistress's chamber was unthinkable. Someone powerful must have sent him, someone who knew her defenses. And that meant the real danger was not outside the palace walls. It was inside. The mistress sat on her throne the next morning, her golden eyes hard and unreadable. Beside her stood the human bodyguard, silent as a shadow. The council of nobles had gathered, pretending shock at the news, but the human could feel the lies in the air, their voices too smooth, their concern too fake. He had seen the same look in war councils on Earth, the guilty hiding among the innocent. One noble, a tall alien with silver skin, bowed deeply. "My mistress," he said in a silky voice, "you must not take this lightly. We must investigate. Every servant, every guard, no one is to be trusted." The human's sharp eyes caught it immediately. His words were correct, but his hands trembled ever so slightly. Fear or guilt? The mistress raised a hand, silencing the room. Her gaze swept across the council like a blade. "I know one thing," she said, her voice calm but deadly. "This assassin was not a thief. He was sent by someone here." Gasps filled the chamber, but she did not blink. Her words were not a question, they were truth. The human stepped forward, his voice low but strong. "I found a mark on the assassin's uniform," he said. The nobles shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting to one another. "It was no random killer," the human continued. "He belonged to a mercenary guild that never works alone. If one came, others will follow." The chamber fell. Into silence, heavy and suffocating, the mistress leaned back on her throne, her golden eyes narrowing. She had expected her human guard to speak of duty, of loyalty. But instead he spoke with the voice of a hunter. He saw what others missed, the details in the shadows, the truth behind polished words. And she knew then that his earthborn instincts were sharper than any blade. Later, when the council dispersed, the mistress walked with him through the long crystal halls of her palace, her gown brushed against the floor, her voice soft but thoughtful. "You see things even my spies fail to notice," she said. "How?" The human's expression remained calm. "Because I've seen betrayal before," he answered. "On my world, I trusted men who smiled at me, only to find their daggers in my back." His voice grew colder. "I learned that liars always leave small signs, and those who plan murder can never truly hide it." The mistress looked at him in silence, her heart stirred by his words, for she too had lived in a world of false smiles and hidden knives. Perhaps that was why she had kept her treasures guarded not by walls, but by fear. And yet, this human saw through everything with only his eyes and his will. That night, the palace grew quieter, but the tension did not fade. The human did not rest. He walked the halls like a restless wolf, watching, listening. And it was then he found something strange. Near one of the side gates, hidden under the stones, he saw a symbol scratched into the wall, the same mark he had seen on the assassin's uniform. His jaw tightened. The enemy was already inside, leaving signs for others. This was no single attack. This was the start of something larger. When he returned to the mistress, he spoke firmly. "Your rivals have already placed their claws inside your palace," he warned. This was only the first strike. The mistress, standing tall in the glow of the twin moons, did not flinch. Her golden eyes narrowed as her lips curved into a dangerous smile. "Then let them come," she whispered. "For now, I have a guard who does not break." But in her heart she wondered, how long could even a human this loyal stand against enemies who moved like shadows and struck like venom? The mistress did not sleep that night. Her palace was quiet, yet her mind was loud with questions. The human had protected her treasures, caught an assassin, and even uncovered the hidden mark of her enemies. But was he truly loyal? Or was his loyalty only words, easy to speak but harder to keep when temptation grew stronger? She decided she would not wait for her enemies to test him. She would do it herself. This time her test would be far more dangerous. The next morning she summoned him to the private garden. The air shimmered with strange flowers that glowed. In the sun, birds with crystal wings sang soft songs in the trees. The human stood before her, calm and silent as always, his eyes alert. "I have a task for you," she said, her voice smooth. "You will deliver a sealed chest to the vaults across the lower city, and you will go alone." The human bowed his head slightly. "As you command." The chest was small but heavy, its surface covered with runes that shimmered faintly. Inside were jewels worth more than entire fleets, weapons forged by extinct worlds, and secrets that could topple kingdoms. The mistress gave him no escort, no witness, only him and the chest. She watched from a distance as he carried it through the streets of her city. Every corner offered temptation, every shadow offered risk. Word spread quickly. A human carrying the mistress's chest unguarded. Thieves followed, merchants whispered, spies reported. In a hidden tavern, a group of mercenaries stopped him. Their leader, a tall alien with skin like stone, stepped forward. "You're far from the palace, human," he sneered. "Why carry what is not yours? Give us the chest and we'll let you live." The human did not blink. "It is not mine to give," he replied, his voice calm. The mercenaries laughed, circling him. One threw a pouch of shining gems at his feet. "Take this, more than you'll ever earn in a lifetime, and walk away." The human looked at the gems only once before stepping over them. His grip on the chest never loosened. "My word is worth more," he said. The mercenaries grew angry. One lunged, blades flashing. But the human fought back with sharp, quick movements, his earth-born strength and instincts cutting through their numbers. When it was over, the chest was still in his hands, untouched. From the shadows, the mistress's spies had watched. They reported back to her, whispering every detail. She listened, silent, her golden eyes narrowing with each word. Later, when the human returned and placed the chest at her feet, she studied him carefully. "You were offered wealth," she said softly. "You were given a chance to escape, yet you refused." The human only nodded. I had a task, and I completed it. The mistress tilted her head, her lips curving into a small smile. Do you know what was inside? She asked. He shook his head. It doesn't matter. Her heart stirred at his words, for she had filled the chest not only with treasure, but with one item that could have changed everything. Her personal sigil of command, a mark that could make him a lord in her empire. And yet he had not even looked. Still doubt lingered in her heart. Loyalty was rare, but so was honesty. And though he had passed this test too, she wondered, was he loyal because of honor? Or because of something else hidden deep inside him? That night, as she stood by her window, she whispered to herself, this human may be the strongest shield I have ever known. But in the same breath, her golden eyes narrowed, or he may be the sharpest dagger yet to strike. The palace buzzed with whispers after the human's return. He had carried the chest through the city, fought mercenaries, and returned without a scratch. Servants spoke in hushed voices, guards exchanged uneasy glances, and nobles muttered behind closed doors. Why did the mistress trust him so much? Why did he refuse jewels, power, and freedom? No alien could understand it. That evening, the mistress summoned him to her private hall. The chamber glowed with soft blue light, the walls carved from crystal that hummed faintly with energy. She sat on her throne, her golden eyes sharp but curious. When he entered, she studied him in silence. Her heart was caught between suspicion and something she could not name. Finally, she spoke, her voice calm but heavy. My human, you have passed my tests, yet my court questions you. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze piercing. They ask, what drives you? Why refuse riches? Why fight shadows that are not yours? The human stood tall, his hands at his side, his face unreadable. For a long moment, he said nothing, and the silence stretched between them. Then his voice broke the stillness, low but firm, because I know what betrayal feels like. The mistress tilted her head, her curiosity sharpening. Explain, she commanded. He took a slow breath, his eyes drifting for a moment as if looking far away, beyond stars and time. On earth I once served men I trusted, he said. They promised honor, they promised brotherhood. But when danger came, they abandoned me. His voice grew colder, every word carrying weight. They left me wounded, left me for dead while they took the reward for themselves. The mistress listened, her golden eyes narrowing. It was rare for anyone, let alone a human, to speak to her with such honesty. And yet, she said softly, here you stand, guarding someone you hardly know. The human's gaze met hers, steady as stone. I learned something in that moment, he continued, that gold fades, power shifts, and even blood can betray you, but a word, your word, is the only thing that cannot be broken, not if you choose to keep it. He paused, his voice deep with conviction. I gave you my word, and that is why I stand. The mistress felt something stir within her chest, something dangerous. She had ruled for years by fear and cunning, trusting no one, keeping her treasures closer than her heart. And yet here was a human broken by betrayal, standing stronger because of it. His scars were invisible, but she could feel them in his voice, in the way he carried himself. For a long moment, she said, nothing. Her fingers traced the arm of her throne, her mind racing. This man had turned weakness into strength, pain into loyalty. But could she allow herself to believe it? Her lips curved into a faint smile, though her eyes stayed sharp. You speak well, human, she said, her voice smooth as silk. But words are wind, and wind can change. The human nodded once, unshaken. Then judge me by my actions, not my words, he replied. The mistress leaned back, hiding the faint quickening of her heart. Her golden eyes gleamed in the crystal light. Very well, she said softly. I will. When he left, she remained seated, her mind restless. The story of his betrayal echoed in her thoughts. For the first time in many years, she felt something almost forgotten. Respect, but respect was dangerous. perhaps even more dangerous than mistrust. She whispered into the stillness of the hall, her voice barely a breath. This human is no ordinary. Guard, he is a storm waiting to break. The palace was restless. Whispers spread through the halls like poison. The council of nobles had grown uneasy. Some feared the human, others envied him, and a few openly hated his presence. But one rival, a powerful noble with silver skin and eyes like frozen glass, had finally decided to act. He could not watch the mistress place her trust in a human any longer. That night, the mistress hosted a grand banquet. The great hall glittered with golden light, crystal chandeliers swaying above the gathered guests. Alien nobles in jeweled robes laughed and drank, their voices rising above the music. The mistress sat upon her high seat, calm and radiant, her golden eyes scanning the crowd with quiet suspicion. And at her side, as always, stood the human, still and watchful. He noticed the smallest things, the way one servant avoided his gaze, the way another poured wine too slowly, the strange flicker of a shadow across the far wall. Something was wrong. He could feel it deep in his bones. Earthborn instinct whispered danger in his ear, and his body tensed. The rival noble rose with a smile too sharp to be kind. "My mistress," he said loudly, lifting his glass. "May your reign shine as brightly as the stars themselves." His words were polite, but his eyes glinted with cold hatred. And at that exact moment, the human saw it. Two figures slipping silently behind the curtains near the banquet doors. Without a word, the human moved, his boots striking the marble floor. The mistress's eyes followed him, curious and sharp. Then chaos erupted. From the shadows burst assassins clad in black, their blades dripping with poison. Guests screamed, overturning tables, jewels scattering across the floor. The rival noble stayed seated, his smile widening, his trap finally sprung. The assassins rushed forward, their speed unnerving, but the human was faster. He grabbed the nearest chair, hurling it into one attacker's chest, knocking him back. Another swung a curved blade at his throat, but the human ducked low, seizing the assassin's wrist and twisting until bones cracked. The fight was brutal, swift and silent. Only the clash of steel and the cries of guests filled the air. The mistress rose, her golden gown flowing as she commanded her guards. "Protect the hall," she shouted, her voice ringing like a blade. But it was the human who drew every eye. He fought with no alien weapon, only his bare hands and the instincts of a warrior forged by betrayal and survival. An assassin lunged at the mistress. His dagger, gleaming, the human threw himself in front of her without hesitation. The blade sank into his shoulder, the poison burning like fire. But his grip did not loosen. He wrenched the dagger free, spun, and struck the assassin down with a blow that sent him crashing across the hall. Gasps filled the room, nobles staring in disbelief. A human, wounded, bleeding, stood against trained alien killers and did not falter. The rival noble's smile faded, his plan unraveling before his eyes. His assassins were falling one by one, their shadows broken by a man who should have been weaker, slower, less, but the human was none of those things. At last, silence returned. The assassins lay sprawled across the crystal floor, their weapons useless. The human staggered, blood staining his uniform, but he remained standing, his body between the mistress and her enemies. His chest rose and fell heavily, but his eyes stayed sharp, never leaving the rival noble. The mistress stepped forward, her golden eyes burning with fury. Her voice cut through the hall like thunder. "Betrayal in my house," she declared, "before all my guests, before the eyes of my ancestors. This human has stood where my own guards faltered." The rival noble tried to speak, but his words choked under her gaze, and all who watched knew the truth. The mistress had been protected not by her armies, not by her riches, but by the human she had once doubted as healers rushed forward to tend his wound. The mistress looked down at him, her voice softer but filled with something rare. "You bleed for me," she whispered, and the human, his voice weak but steady, replied, "I said I would."